Good afternoon, and welcome to A Beer with the Old Growler. I'm the Old Growler, Pete LaFrance, and I'm glad to have you with. I'm glad to have you with me. Today is the 3rd of June, 2020. It is the 78th day of what they call New York Pause, which means that all of the pubs, bars, taverns, and watering holes in New York have been closed ever since the 15th of May, I believe it was. No, April. Yes, April, May, June. It's coming up to the 3rd month of staying inside, and only essential workers going out and about. So, well, the reason that I'm here, you take a look at the front page of this channel, and there's a little trailer there. It tells you that I didn't want to drink alone, so I'm glad to have all of you folks with me. And it is just on 5 o'clock. Now I got something to show you. Where do you see this? Well, some of you have already seen it, but some of you who are not in New York, but who however, New Orleans, you folks from New Orleans, you've seen these. This is a to-go cup. That's what that is. And it's now the favorite thing in New York City. I'll tell you, the to-go cup. They've even got to-go cocktails. Yes. So we've got a to-go cup. And it is, oh, Lord, it's a very nautical sounding beer. I managed to stop over to the Henry Street Ale House to pick it up, because they were closed yesterday. And today's Wednesday, so that means that they were closed on Tuesday, and they usually open. So I wouldn't say deprived of my beer, but there wasn't a fresh growler to be had. Now there is, from the to-go cups, because the computers had a little drink of beer a couple days, 3 days ago, and it doesn't want to do it again. And a to-go cup is unstable, to say the least, as well as the person using it. But there we go. Another one of those cloudy little beers. But it looks refreshing enough. And as I say, this has been in the to-go cup rather than being from a growler. So this is a little bit winded. But here we go. Cheers from the Old Growler to you, and I'm glad to have you with us. Oh, that's not a bad piece of work. I'm going to have to check and see what it is. That's why we have receipts. I think we've gone through that before. Just to make sure that I've got, oh, geez. Did I put that? Put it in my jacket pocket. Or, no, I have a jacket, that's right. All right, well, it's a mystery beer. But as I say, it had some kind of nautical thing, and it's around 6.5% alcohol, if I'm not mistaken. I'll put the name of the beer in the information box below. I said I'll put the beer, the name of the beer, in the information box below. So, okay, well, welcome everybody who is here. Welcome back. And for those folks who are just newbies here, this is the way it works. The Old Growler, there used to be 3 or 4 months ago, the Old Growler would get together at the Henry Street Ale House over in Brooklyn Heights and do beer tastings. The bartender there, Jerry Scott, the bar manager there, he was all interested in beers, and he's been a bartender in Brooklyn. I mean, he's practically a national, he's practically a borough treasure. That is the truth. And Jim Bennis from upstairs, upstairs Jim, I call me, but a beer aficionado, definitely a beer aficionado, and certainly food. And we would get together on Thursdays at around 4 o'clock, and was it 4 o'clock? It was 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, and get together, and usually I would have a beer with me, something new and different. And being a professional barfly, beer companies have been regularly sending me samples, so that of course we can sample them here. And in fact, Tomorrow we'll be trying from Founders Brewing Company. They sent me this. Since it's gonna be, it's getting warm here. This is a mas agave, grapefruit, some kind of thing, and we're gonna try it out. But that's the type of stuff that they'll send me, and so I'll take it over, and we'll read the label and take a look at the graphics, and say, well, now, what is this? What is the label? What's this can? What's this bottle telling me about what's inside? And we come to a conclusion of what it seems to be presenting itself as, and then Jerry pours it out and sample the glasses, and we try it out. Now, does it meet expectations? It gets a thumbs up. If it doesn't meet expectations, it gets a thumbs down. And that is the way we do things. And so that is called meeting expectations. And since we can't be at the Henry Street Ale House, and I'm with you guys, well, we're going to do that today. Today we have a gift from Corey Hill, who runs a wine store called Wet Whistle. And I've known Corey for years and years. And speaking of bartenders, he's had quite a reputation as a bartender, as well as a wine merchant and wine rep, and now a owner of a wine store. So he knows his stuff. And in the back of his refrigerator, and I'm not too sure how old this is, but in the back of his refrigerator is this, okay, Sinebrychoff. Okay, the choff I've got, the Sinebrychoff Porter, and it comes from Finland. It comes from Finland, and it has been in a refrigerator for quite a while. Let's see if I can find a date on this, although I doubt it sincerely. Pastra, something in Sweden. Was it Swedish? Icelandic. Something in Icelandic. Porter spelled three ways. Brewers since 18 something. Unfortunately, it's suffered a little bit of a bruise. 33 centiliters. Okay, let's see on the back here. It simply says imported to the U.S. by B United International in Reading. Product of Finland. 11.2 fluid ounces. 7.2% alcohol by volume. All right. Well, don't have much to go on here. The fact that it's a porter, okay, that I'll buy. There's no mention. Well, there's the alcohol back here, 7.2%, which is a little high for a porter, a traditional English style porter. So, well, I'm expecting it to be dark. We'll start with that. I'm expecting it to be have a relatively maybe a sandy colored head, possibly, if not white, but not too well knit, which means the bubbles will be kind of large, not too small, and probably tasting a little bit like it definitely, I think, more sweeter than bitter. Okay. So we have a dark beer, medium body, and not too bitter, more sweet. So we'll give it a shot. Let's see what it does now. Gotta be careful. I'm gonna get my church key out. Here's a church key. Opens up any door, any church door, anyway. Okay. Oh, once again, we got the wine glass, because that way every beer gets tasted in the same style of glass, and it doesn't get cheap as far as aromatics or anything else, carbonation or anything else. Okay, we're going to crack this open. Okay, let's go. Come on, there we are. Boy, there's a hefty little bottle. Nice one. Used to be home brewing. I would probably keep one of these. These are nice and hefty. Okay, let's take a pour. Well, look at this. Oh, now that's pretty. Boy, oh boy, now that meets all of the requirements, except that it is exceeding my expectation. Look at the little bubbles. Look at the tiny little bubbles on that head. Look at that. Wow, that is remarkable. Let's see if I can look through it with the light. No, no, that's opaque. That's opaque. You're not going to get any light through that one. This is almost a stout. But okay, let's see what. It's almost a sherry, not a sherry, a port. Any port in the storm. Oh my. If it had rasp to it, it would be a stout, but it doesn't. It has a smoothness to it, which gives it's an absolute characteristic of a porter. Wow. I've had some porters, mainly American, but a couple of the British breweries as well, and wow, I would say this truly beats the bejesus out of any porter that I've ever had. I'm tempted to say it's a chocolate, but it's not chocolate, and it's I wouldn't identify it as a grain, such as in hop. Hop. It doesn't have a hoppy flavor. It's oh wow! I'm gonna have to have another sip to. That's one of the tough things about being a professional barfly, in particular the journalist part, is trying to get words to explain what some flavors are. There's another trick for tasting is to breathe in after you've had a sip. It's called aspiration, and no, not like for high office, but you're aspirating you're getting air to resonate in the back of your mouth, and aromas are also picked up through your mouth because the nasal passages open up in the back of your throat, and so you actually can smell through your mouth, which is kind of a weird thought, but it works. Well, I can. I'm going to have to work on my vocabulary as to what, but it is certainly a yummy porter, and wow, it exceeds expectations tremendously. That's a real piece of work. Now, that's the first part of a beer with the Old Growler. The next part is always two parts. The first part is the tasting. Well, the introduction is the first part. Then there's the tasting. The first main part is the tasting, and next comes my life as a professional barfly, in which I relate war stories, events. I tell you about particular people that I have met, or particular places, all having a major influence on how I perceive my career, the way I look at the world, and that is something that I have to, as a journalist, keep reminding myself of. Is that and again, I've quoted Anna Eastnin before. She says that we don't see things as they are; we see them as we are. And so it's interesting to step out of all of the prejudices that I have. I don't like cloudy beer, but I'm going to taste it. In fact, the to-go cup had cloudy beer in it because Jerry thought that it would be a beer that I'd be interested in tasting, and it is. It's a lot of fun. I'm interested to open up the growler itself. Because we got the lid down tight, so it's going to hold its carbonation. But the second part is where I get to tell the war stories. And today, we did the feature tasting. Oh, yes, I do have a cheat sheet here. Now let's see if the cheat sheet says what I have mentioned about this particular porter. And this is from the Carlsberg people, and apparently they handle the importation or importing, or they handle the marketing and distribution of this porter. They say Sinebrychoff Porter is a top-fermented, dark, almost black, unfiltered beer with a malty roasted aroma. 4 different malts are used for this brew: Pilsner, Münchener, colored, C-O-L-O-U-R-E-D, I don't know, and brown malt. These make up the beer's characteristic aromas: roastiness, chocolate, coffee, and licorice. Well, I didn't get any licorice, but certainly the roastedness, which is kind of a vague term, chocolate and coffee. Those I mentioned. And it says Sinebrychoff Porter is generously hopped with Saazer and bittering hops. Saazer, as I know the pronunciation would be Saaz without the ER, but it comes from the Saaz region of the Czech Republic. And bittering hops. They don't mention which bittering hops, but they're not. If they're there, they're not noticeable, which means that's a good thing. You know, it's. So I guess it pretty much agrees. All right. Well, now I can get to my life as a professional barfly, and today I'm going to talk about the fact that there's when I tell people that I'm a journalist and I've written books about beer and food, and that I have it is in semi-retirement now. A blog that I've had out, which was called beerbasics.com, and it's in retirement. It will renew itself soon as the Old Growler. So the Old Growler is going to be coming up out as a blog pretty soon. So look forward to that. I'll let you know how to connect up and everything in a while when we get it going. But in any event, when I tell people that I'm a blogger and a vlogger and a nighttime writer and a journalist and an author about beer, they always say, "Wow, that must be really great, boy. You get to drink all the time." Well, yeah, there's some great things about what I do and being a professional barfly, and there's some not so great things. So I thought I would list some of those for you today, just to let you know. Okay, let's see. First great thing, I mentioned it earlier: free beer. I've had many breweries sending me beer for sampling. They know that I do in the past a blog and a tasting. In fact, you can see the tasting notes on this channel. Just go to, I think it's Kitchen Table Tastings, and that goes back, they go back 4 years, I think. But the best ones to look at are, as I say, the tastings at the Henry Street Ale House. Those are the ones. Those are the fun ones to watch. And yes, that's a lot of fun. That's fun. But the not so great thing is having to keep, as I mentioned a little earlier, having to keep an open mind about each one of them and not judging it beforehand from my point of view, the way I look at it, looking at it as it is, not as I am, and that's a challenge. So that's a not so good. That's not so great. Another great is visiting breweries and brew pubs. Now that is truly it sounds like a lot of fun. It really is, and it is. However, every time I go to a brewery or a brew pub, I learn something new. because each one of them is different in one way or another. The brewing process is always the same, essentially, but it's how they set their equipment up. How the grain goes all the way from up here, and actually, in the truth, it has to start out. The grain has to be a couple of stories high. How do you get it up there? Because you grind it, which then becomes ground up grain, becomes grist. They call it grist, and then that goes down into a mash tun, and then we get into all kinds of good jargon and things. And I'm going to talk about jargon later on and the use of that. But in any event, each of the breweries and each of the brew pubs is different. And when we get to the brew pubs, those are even more fun because that involves food service and the hospitality industry. And so you have kitchens involved in food and food processing, and food processing going together with beer and using some of the spent grain in the food. And it's a lot of it's just, if I don't learn something each time, I can't remember what the last time that I went to a brewery or a brew pub and didn't learn something. And this is as a visitor, not as someone who has made arrangements to meet the people. And when I do that, when I make arrangements to interview the brewer or the brew pub owner, that's truly, you certainly learn an awful lot with that. The not so great, as far as this is concerned, is remembering to record the visit. There's been at least 2 instances where I've interviewed top name chefs. David Burke. Yes, it was David Burke. I interviewed him at his restaurant in Manhattan, and it was a good hour's worth. I mean, it was fantastic. And this was back when we had things like this, like a cassette. Okay. Well, I was beside myself. I said, "Oh boy, this is going to be a killer." I got some great pictures. Oh, it was really good. So then I'm standing on a corner, waiting to cross the street, and I turn on the cassette recorder, and the little red lights going on there. It says that there's no battery. Okay. Needless to say, I had to recreate the entire conversation by memory, and that sucked because it didn't work. I mean, and I couldn't call him back and say, I did a few follow-up questions, yes, but that there, transcribing those tapes, sweet mother, I tell you, to sit there and go cheese bump, cheese bump, cheese bump, cheese bump, it can drive you nuts. And that was when you had to type in. You didn't have voice recognition like they have today. We have today. So that was a lot of fun. And then today in the interviews, editing the videos and posting the videos and marketing and all of that is just that's not too much fun. Okay, great. What's great? Meeting the dedicated and enthusiastic folk in the beer and hospitality business. And I must tell you that from my experience, these people are you have to be enthusiastic to be in this business because you're working on such a thin margin, and it's a challenge as far as the bookkeeping alone, but as far as quality. And all the people that I've ever talked to, it was quality first, and they were willing to maybe take a hit on something rather than screw up the product. They take every brewer takes their beer very, very, very personal, and so that was a lot of fun to meet those type of dedicated people. And you meet people like that, and you say, okay, the world can't be going to hell in a handbasket. Here's some people that they'll try anything to not to succeed, but that's a tough thing. There's a question. What are they going for? Finance? Are they going for fame? Are they going for fortune? It's just what you do. I think that's what it comes down to. But anyways, I digress. And that's so great part. Meeting all these great people. The not so great part is keeping perspective regarding the influence of people's personalities and staying focused on getting more than just the talking points. Everybody has a spiel that they do when they walk through a brewery and that type of thing. So, or a restaurant when an owner takes me through or the chef, we're talking. They have the points they want to make, and you nod and smile and agree, and then you listen. That's a real skill, to listen and not start asking questions, but to listen and then work. But that's a little bit of a technical story that we can get to later. Okay. Now, one of the other great things about being a professional barfly is eating and drinking some of the best food and beverage available. I've had a chance to go to restaurants not only in New York, but up and down the East Coast, as well as when I was a travel writer, being able to go to Europe, to Munich and to Paris and to Vienna and to Saazer, and that was just incredible. Hamburg, and it was great because when I was a travel writer, of course, they wanted to impress you, so you did get a chance and to meet and to see and to eat some of the most fantastic food going. The not so great part about that is that unconsciously you set a rather high standard for everything, and that can cause you to lose focus, perspective especially. You have to keep everything in perspective, and that's a tough thing to do. So, but as a professional barfly journalist, well, that's what I do. Okay. Now, that all sounds like pretty good, and they balance off. However, the next thing I get to is the more not so greats. Okay, we start out with hustling for assignments. When you're starting out, hustling for assignments is incredibly frustrating. There were people, journalists that I worked with in 35, 40 years ago, that would starting out freelancing and would say, well, I have enough rejection slips to paper the wall of my bathroom. Well, as a freelance journalist, the object is not to collect rejection slips. The object is to get assignments. Okay, so I learned to hustle, and that was a good thing. But boy, oh boy, learning that was tough. Okay, another one, not so great thing. You have to learn, and if you don't know it, you're in trouble. The difference between a deadline and a drop dead deadline. Okay, editor will give you a deadline, say back when we were doing magazines, a month from now. Okay, sure as shoot that he's really talking maybe 2 months, but the drop dead deadline is 6 weeks. So you can play with that, but don't play with it too much. If you can turn in an assignment before time or on what they call deadline, they'll come back, and they came back a lot. Okay, now, this one is a real tough one. This is a not so great thing, is that, believe it or not, making myself understood. Because let's see, now let me come up with some really good stuff. Okay, the other day, I was working so hard, I mean, I really got slammed, but I didn't end up in the weeds. So there you go. Most people are looking at me going, what? Well, if you're from the restaurant world, to be slammed means that you have so many orders, you're overwhelmed with orders. To be in the weeds means that you lost all control. Okay. Let's see. Jargon for brewing. I just started out with some grist and wort, a mash tun, a bright tank, as far as beer, as far as that this goes, legs, nose, jargon that is everyday jargon for me. But I have to realize that a lot of times people are not, they're not a beer geek. I mean, I'm talking to and writing for people who want to know about beer, who don't know what these terms mean. And so it's to have to draw yourself and the discipline that's involved. That's not so great. Yeah, the terminologies, lingo. Every profession has a lingo and a jargon, you know, that kind of sets it up apart from people, you know. So that's it's tough to. I have to remember to be to explain each term, because and to do it not in a patronizing way, but to explain it, because the person who's reading or watching my material wants to know, and so that's the important thing for me to do. And what some of the really tough, this is really, I think, the toughest part about it, where it's not so great, is staying focused amid writing, editing, marketing, researching, interviewing, publishing, tasting, blogging, maintaining a presence on social media, being a videographer, sound man, video editor, dubbing expert, photographer, and art director. Now, yes, yeah, that's part of being a professional barfly. You got to be able to do that stuff. And when you don't know how to do it, by golly, you go find somebody who will. For those of you who remember the old Beer Basics website, that I did on the fly with a little help. The new one that's coming out, the Old Growler, this is being designed. I went and I said, okay, look, I need help, and yeah, I know I need help. No, went and found a great organization and working with them, and so it's gonna. We're not jumping, you know, immediately setting wicked deadlines and stuff like that. No, we're taking our time to do it. So the Old Growler is on its way, though. So look forward to that. I'll tell you, a lot of stuff. As I say, the Old Growler as a site. Did I leave something out? Yes, I did, and that is to ask those of you who are here and still watching, that I thank you very much for doing so, and I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a thumbs up, and if you subscribed, well, hell, that would be fantastic. And the alarm bell down there, well, I think it's the alert bell they call it. That way you know when the Old Growler has something published. Now we're going to be eventually coming out of the total lockdown, and I'll be able to get back to interviewing brewers, and there are a bunch of, well, there's I think 16 breweries in Brooklyn alone, and I believe there's about a half a dozen distilleries as well. And so it's going to be time to go out and do some interviewing, which means that the Old Growler isn't going to be live every day. We'll probably be live on Mondays and Fridays, and the rest of the other 3 days we'll be posting new tasting notes and new my life as a professional barfly essays. So that's how it's going to work up. But I want to thank you all for being here. If you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments box down below. That's how I know that you're interested, and I can certainly try some of the beers, that is for sure. Oh, Mayor's Beers, greetings from Liverpool, UK. What am I drinking? Okay, I am having a Sinebrychoff Porter. Take a look at that. It comes from Finland, and it's 7.2% alcohol by volume, and it's a marvelous beer. Carlsberg apparently has the distribution rights in Europe and North America. So, but welcome, Mersey Beers. Ferry across the Mersey, eh? Good to see you. And what are you drinking, Mersey, if I may ask? And let's see. Oh, that's the porter from yesterday, Thralls. Let's take a quick sneak at what we're going to be drinking tomorrow. Founders Mas Agave. The Founders, folks, they put out some interesting beers. And this one is an Imperial Gueuze style ale, brewed with grapefruit and agave, aged in tequila barrels. Oh, that's going to be fun. Barrel aged. That's the fun thing that there's so many people are barrel aging beers, and they do take on the flavor of the barrel, particularly if it's charred and had bourbon in it, because you still get some of those flavors. And the color, that's the other thing. If it's charred, you're going to get a darker beer. That's going to be fun. And so let's see, what else have they got on here? We're going to sneak a peek. Okay, Founders Brewing Company, da, 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 da. Oh, here we go. Oh. The cocktail inspiration lives on. Wiping the moisture off. Our Imperial Gueuze is brewed with agave and sea salt before being aged in tequila barrels. But it doesn't end there. Once it's pulled from the barrels, not poured, pulled from the barrels, it gets a dose of fresh grapefruit juice to ramp up the tanginess and to pay homage to our other favorite tequila-based cocktail, the Paloma. Sweet, salty, and mouth-puckeringly delicious Mas Agave grapefruit. And this was packaged on April 10th of this year. So it's this is gonna be fun. Fun summer beer, and I can guarantee you that tomorrow I probably will not be wearing a turtleneck. I'll probably be wearing a t-shirt. Oh, yes, a collaboration. Mersey is a collaboration beer between Thornbridge Brewery and Salafin, which is their middle, which is an American red ale style at 6.2% alcohol. Wow, that sounds. Let's see now. I'm reading the collaboration beer. I'm wondering, American red ale style. Boy. Is it heavily hopped? Pardon me. No, I'll grant you executive privilege. No. If I can imagine, it's probably a little bit hoppy. We over here have a tendency to put a great deal of honor upon the hop, particularly the Cascade. I was just mentioning the agave in the Mas Agave there, that they have grapefruit. Well, I don't see why they didn't use Cascade hops, because that would certainly give you the same type of grapefruit flavor. Citra gives us a lemon type of flavor, so those can be played with. So I'm imagining that if it's an American red ale, it's probably a little bit hoppy, but it's a pleasure to have a across the Atlantic viewer. I appreciate that. Oh, this is, it definitely does goes beyond expectations. It beats expectations on this one. And it's kind of nice to have a relaxing beer. I tell you that here in Brooklyn, it's not been too noisy. We've had some noise. We're at the end of the Brooklyn Bridge, which means if there's demonstrations of any kind, they usually come across the Brooklyn Bridge, and it's symbolic, of course. And so it's we've had quite a few interesting views. I remember on 9/11, the people coming across from Manhattan, because everything had been closed down. In the summertime, it's normally just absolutely packed. In the mornings, when my wife and I walk across the bridge, there were in the past there were always fashion shoots at 7 in the morning. I guess the light is good then. But yeah, it's a good time to relax with a good beer, and to share it with others, even if it is over the internet. Um, okay, Mersey says the beer that he's drinking, it's piney and peppery, but no mention of which hops are in the ale. Cheers from across the Atlantic. Lockdown is still ongoing there, but easing. Sorry state of affairs in the U.S. at the moment. Yeah, we've got the extra. As I was just mentioning, the folks on the Brooklyn Bridge demonstrating, and yeah, boy, that it adds to the tension. That's for sure. Wow. That's why it's good to have a beer, not to escape, but to contemplate. Well, this one here. I left just a little bit down there because it says that it's bottle conditioned. But the Finns, the gift from Finland, and the gift to me from my friend Corey. It's a good vibe, and we need good vibes now for sure. I mentioned walking across the bridge in the mornings. Now there are no photo shoots, although I saw one the other day, but not. It was just two people, and it was bare bones. Well, not bare bones. I mean, she was wearing a dress, but it was a small thing. But we see probably about 25 or 30 people tops. Recently, the last 2 days, maybe 10 or 15. Most of them jogging, and a lot of them bicycles. And because we have to wear masks, of course, and keep social distancing, doesn't mean you have to be antisocial. And so I always like to give a thumbs up to anyone that I see or who can make eye contact. In New York, you're not supposed to make eye contact in the old days, but now that's how you see people, is eyes. And inevitably, I would say 90%, maybe 95% of the time, I get not only a thumbs up, but I've gotten a, let's see if I can do this right, one of these rock on. I've gotten hearts, and it's just it shows that there's still, you can still communicate, you can still it hasn't gone, it hasn't fallen off the table, and there's still a whole bunch of good souls out there. So everyone in this area anyway, who's still here. This is close to Brooklyn Heights, and that's one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in New York, and many of them have gone to camp out in the Hamptons or up in the Catskills, where they have their summer homes. So we have a lot less people as well as no tourists, and those that are still here, well, as I say, we give thumbs up, nods. It's become a neighborhood. Well, it's always been a neighborhood, but I think you've started to. We're all in the same storm together. We might not be in the same boat, but we're in the same storm. And in a storm, sailors are apt to, so run up signal flags that hope you're all right, all that kind of good stuff. But that's pretty much what's happening here. And as a journalist, I was. It's been 3 months now, and I'm glad to be the Old Growler because it gives me a chance to at least be articulate. It's been very difficult to concentrate and to write. So, but research and when people when I get the beer samples, and when I can plot out the fact that from 5 o'clock until whenever, it's a chance to communicate, And that to me is one of the things I miss the most about bars being closed, is talking to friends, hearing other ideas. We don't all have the same political affiliations. In fact, sometimes it's on being on opposite sides of a pole, north and south for sure. But in a bar, you learn to, I wouldn't say ignore them, but you don't let them get in the way of friendships. You don't let them get in the way of sharing a beer. And beer is meant to be shared. That's for damn sure. And so I'm glad I'm able to share it. Exactly. Mersey says you don't know what you missed till it's gone. Isn't that the truth? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Oh boy! I tell you, it's good to see you, Mercy. Do my heart good. Do my heart good. Peter, don't hit the microphone there. And I apologize for the first part of the show when the mic wasn't on. I was inconsiderate. But I know that once we get back together, it's gonna mean something different. How the restaurants are going to operate is going to be an interesting thing. The limited seating. I've already seen videos of in Paris servers with surgical masks. It's going to be interesting for sommeliers. I mean, how do you to check the cork and sniff the wine? That's, you're going to have to an up and down or something like that. I don't know, but I'm imagining that you would open the bottle like that 6 feet away from any other person. That would be a challenge. The restaurants here in New York, some of them are doing as I showed you the takeaway cup, the to-go cup. They also have menus to go. You can pick them up, and some of them are delivering. But my wife and I, we'd like to take a walk, and so we have 3 or 4 of our favorite places, and we kind of rotate as far as going and ordering from them. You can get some great deals on bottles of wine, and they are. And some of them I found interesting was they would do pre-fee menus, so that way it keeps the kitchen staffed there. But the inventory problem is taken. Well, I wouldn't say taken care of, but it is not as bad as it would be if you were running a full menu. And it's interesting to see people working outside the envelope. Mersey, we were extremely lucky. Me and my partner went to Texas and New Orleans for Mardi Gras for our 10th anniversary. At the end of February, arrived back about 2 weeks prior to the lockdown here. Wow, you were in Mardi Gras at that time. Boy, I'll bet you. Wow, you dodged a bullet, my friend. Wow, that was when we were not paying attention to the spread. And well, boy, oh boy, hey, cheers, my friend, cheers. Oh, wow. I wished I had a little bit more of that one, but okay, you live. Well, that's the other thing, beers. There are some of the small breweries here. I know Single Cut, and there's another one. There's one in Manhattan, Crown and Torch, are delivering beers. You can order 4 packs, and they'll deliver them. So there are ways of getting around. Adapt, adjust, overcome, and it's testing people, but it's certainly gonna change how we some of the things we value, particular friends and getting together. But it's a learning experience, that's for sure, and it's frustrating. That's for sure. That is also for sure, not knowing when things when it will be safe, and defining safe. That's a very interesting word to define these days. There's no such thing as a risk-free environment. Living is risky. but perspective. Perspective has to be maintained. Context. And again, when we have the polarization going on now, it's just incredibly difficult. Other halves altogether movement has been something of a phenomenon. Yeah, it's puzzling. There was a urban legend of the Chinese proverb of may you live in interesting times. I'm not too sure whether that's authentic or not, but we certainly are living in interesting times. Well, I want to thank everybody for staying around today. This was a lot of fun, especially seeing folks from the UK, Mersey Beats Beers, Mersey Beers. We're on here Friday every day from 5 o'clock until 6 o'clock, at least for the next week, for sure. And then after that, it'll be Mondays and Fridays. But it was great to see you. It was great to see everybody else. Thanks for stopping in. And I'm just hoping everybody enjoys a good evening, a good morning, a good night, well, wherever you may be. Cheers.